Hey everyone, and welcome back. With all the talk about AI these days, I thought it'd be fascinating to uh, strap on our safety goggles, so to speak, and take a deep dive into the world of manufacturing.
It's certainly a hot topic.
It really is. So we're talking robots, AI, and that big question everyone seems to be asking, can all this fancy tech actually solve the manufacturing labor crisis we keep hearing about?
It's a question with a lot of angles, that's for sure. And thankfully, we've got a great resource to help us unpack it all, the ninth annual State of Smart Manufacturing Report.
Okay, so tell us more about this report. Who put it together, and what makes it so insightful?
This report comes from Rockwell Automation, and they surveyed over 1,500 global manufacturers. So we're talking real insights from the people on the front lines of this technological shift.
That's what I like to hear, real-world perspective. So it's not just some theoretical debate. This is about companies grappling with, well, everything: inflation, energy costs, supply chain chaos, and of course, that massive skills gap everyone's talking about. You're hitting all the pressure points. The report calls it a perfect storm of challenges facing the industry.
Sounds intense. So what's the general consensus? Are manufacturers buckling under the pressure? Or are they finding ways to adapt and even thrive amidst all this uncertainty?
Well, that's why things get interesting. Because despite these hurdles, a surprising 94% of manufacturers expect to either maintain or even grow their workforce as they adopt smart manufacturing technologies.
Okay, now that sounds counterintuitive. If robots are taking over, why are workforces growing?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the report suggests it all boils down to how this technology is being used. See, rather than replacing jobs outright, it seems AI and automation are being deployed more strategically, to bridge that skills gap we were talking about.
So instead of mass layoffs and robots running the show, it's more about AI taking on specific tasks and freeing up humans for higher level work.
Precisely. The report highlights this really fascinating tension. Manufacturers consistently cite a lack of skilled workers as their biggest obstacle to staying competitive, yet the solution seems to be more technology, not less. It's about using AI for tasks like quality control, cybersecurity, process optimization, those things that humans might find, tedious or difficult to manage effectively at scale.
It's like giving each worker an AI assistant, which honestly sounds pretty cool. But let's get specific here. What kind of skills are we talking about? Is this all coding and algorithms? Because I know I'm not the only one who feels a little intimidated by all that technical jargon.
I hear you. It's tempting to think of it that way, but the report actually emphasizes a much broader range of skills. Things like communication, teamwork, analytical thinking, even just a basic understanding of smart technologies and cybersecurity. These are things that are valuable across so many roles, not just on a factory floor.
That's a really important point. This isn't just about manufacturing, it's about the future of work in general. And the report seems to be saying that adapting to this new reality is as much about human skills as it is about technical ones. Would you say that's accurate?
You hit the nail on the head. The report actually calls it a human problem, not just a technological one. The companies that will come out ahead in this new landscape are the ones that figure out how to upskill their workforce, how to help their employees thrive alongside these new technologies.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Invest in your employees' skills, and the whole company benefits. But I want to zoom back in on AI's role for a moment. The report mentions quality control as a primary use case. Can you elaborate on that a bit? Why is AI so well suited for that particular task?
It's a great example of where AI's strengths really shine. Just imagine being able to analyze massive amounts of data in real time, spotting even the tiniest defects before they become major problems. That's what AI can do, and it's a game changer for quality control.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be incredibly valuable. Catching errors early on means saving time, money, and potentially even preventing hazardous situations down the line. But what about the data itself? I mean, we hear all the time about information overload. Is there a risk of manufacturers drowning in data?
Oh, that's a crucial question, and the report actually calls this out as a major paradox. Manufacturers, they get it, they understand that data is essential, and they see how industry leaders are using it to their advantage.
And yet,
And yet,
yeah.
on average, they admit to only using about 44% of the data they collect effectively. Imagine the potential if they could tap into that other 56%.
Wow, that's a lot of wasted potential. So it's not just about having the data, it's about knowing what to do with it. And that's where those skilled workers come in again, right?
You got it. You need people who can analyze that data, extract meaningful insights, and then translate those insights into actionable improvements. It's a perfect example of how humans and AI can work together, each playing to their strengths.
It's a partnership. AI crunches the numbers, and humans provide the context and make the strategic decisions. But let's shift gears just a bit and talk about cybersecurity. It seems like every time we talk about AI, the conversation inevitably circles back to the potential risks. Am I wrong?
Not at all. As manufacturing processes become more interconnected, the potential attack surface grows exponentially. Think about it, if your factory floor is connected to the internet, it's potentially vulnerable to attacks from anywhere in the world.
It's like leaving the back door wide open, except in this case, the back door is a line of code. So, how do manufacturers even begin to address that? What are some of the best practices for securing these increasingly complex systems?
It's definitely a multifaceted challenge, and the report stresses that technological solutions alone aren't enough. Don't get me wrong, things like zero-trust architecture, essentially assuming every user and device is a potential threat until verified, are important.
So, like a healthy dose of paranoia built into the system itself?
You could say that.
Hmm.
But beyond the technology itself, you need a workforce that's educated about these risks.
Hmm.
People who understand cybersecurity protocols, who know how to identify and report suspicious activity, they're your first line of defense.
And hopefully they haven't clicked on any "you want a free cruise" links recently. But in all seriousness, it seems like this focus on cybersecurity ties back into that broader theme of human skills being essential in this new era of manufacturing. It's not just about the robots, right? It's about the people who design them, implement them, manage them, and make sure they're not being used for nefarious purposes.
Absolutely. And the report really digs into this human side of technological advancement, acknowledging the very real challenges manufacturers face when managing their workforce through all this change.
It must be a lot to process, especially for someone who's been working in a factory for decades. It's not just about learning new software, it's about adapting to a whole new way of working. How are companies supporting their employees through this transition?
That's the key question, isn't it? And you know what the report found to be the biggest workforce-related obstacles? It wasn't a lack of technical skills.
Really? What was it then?
Things like change management, employee retention, keeping employees engaged. Imagine working in a factory for 20 years, doing your job the same way, and suddenly everything's different because of AI. That's a huge adjustment and requires more than just a training manual.
It's about feeling secure in your job, knowing that your skills are still valuable even as the technology evolves. So, what's the solution? How do manufacturers create an environment where employees feel supported and empowered through these changes?
The report points to leadership as being a critical factor here. The most successful manufacturers, they're not just investing in technology, they're investing in their people. They're creating a culture of continuous learning, providing opportunities for upskilling and reskilling.
And probably a healthy dose of open communication as well, right? Letting employees know what's happening, why it's happening, and how it will impact them.
Exactly. It's about transparency, collaboration, and making sure everyone feels like they're part of the solution, not victims of the change. And that brings us to a really interesting observation from the report. This isn't just about futuristic factories run entirely by robots. The future of manufacturing is still very much dependent on humans.
It's not humans versus machines. It's about finding ways for humans and machines to work together, to complement each other's strengths, and to create a more efficient, sustainable.
And ultimately, more human-centered future of work.
I love that. But before we dive too deep into that utopian vision, I think we need to acknowledge that sustainability is a huge part of this equation as well. And it's one that often gets overlooked in the rush to embrace shiny new technologies. Wouldn't you agree?
It's true. It's encouraging to see that sustainability is no longer just a buzzword. It's a core business imperative.
Yeah.
And that's particularly true in manufacturing, where energy consumption, waste reduction, ethical sourcing, these are all paramount concerns.
Absolutely. And the report found that almost every single manufacturer surveyed, a whopping 98%, has some form of sustainability or ESG policy in place.
Which, to me, is a testament to this growing awareness that sustainability isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good for business. Consumers are demanding it, investors are prioritizing it, governments are incentivizing it.
It's a win-win all around. But what are some of the specific sustainability concerns that are top of mind for manufacturers right now?
The report highlights three key areas: energy management, health and safety, and recycling. And thankfully, these are all areas where smart manufacturing technologies can make a real difference.
Give me an example. How does AI actually translate into a greener, safer factory?
Well, imagine using AI-powered systems to optimize energy consumption, reducing waste and emissions. or leveraging sensors and data analytics to identify potential hazards and prevent accidents before they happen.
It's fascinating how these technologies can be applied to address such a wide range of challenges. But what's driving this push for sustainability? Is it purely altruistic, or are there other factors at play?
That's a great question. And the report actually digs into the motivations behind these sustainability initiatives. While some manufacturers are driven by a genuine desire to be more environmentally and socially responsible,
Let's be real, there's probably some good old-fashioned business sense involved as well, right?
precisely. The report found that some of the top motivators for pursuing sustainability include improving efficiency, reducing costs, meeting customer demands, and even attracting and retaining top talent.
So it's not just about doing good, it's about doing well by doing good. Embracing sustainability can lead to cost savings, innovation, and a stronger brand reputation.
Exactly. And that's a message that often gets lost in the conversation. Sustainability isn't just a moral imperative, it's a smart business strategy.
Well said. And speaking of smart strategies, this report is full of insights that manufacturers can use to make informed decisions about their digital transformation journeys. But what I find really fascinating is how many of these insights are relevant to other industries as well.
Absolutely. The challenges and opportunities we see in manufacturing automation, AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, sustainability, these are all trends shaping the future of work across industries.
It's not just about what's happening on the factory floor, it's about what's happening in every office, every industry, every corner of the world.
Precisely. And that's why reports like this are so valuable. They provide a glimpse into the future of work, not just for one industry, but for all of us.
It's a future full of exciting possibilities, but also some very real challenges that we need to be prepared to address. And one of those challenges, which this report keeps mentioning, is the industrial Gen AI revolution. Is that just hype? Or is there real substance behind that phrase?
That's a great question, and one that I think a lot of our listeners are grappling with right now. So let's unpack that a bit, shall we? The report actually offers a pretty nuanced perspective
Yeah.
on the role of AI, particularly Gen AI, in manufacturing.
And by nuanced, you mean it's not as simple as like robots taking over the world.
Well, we wouldn't go that far, but it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all solution either. What's fascinating is how manufacturers are already using or are planning to use AI and related technologies in really practical and targeted ways.
Like what? Give me some concrete examples. I'm all about making this real for our listeners.
Well, for starters, the report highlights a significant uptick in investment and adoption of things like cobots, those collaborative robots designed to work alongside humans, and AMRs,
AMRs, remind me what those are again.
autonomous mobile robots. Think of them as like smart self-driving forklifts that can navigate a warehouse or factory floor without human intervention. They're already revolutionizing material handling and logistics in many facilities.
Okay, so we're talking about AI taking over some of the more physically demanding, repetitive tasks. But what about the more strategic, decision-making aspects of manufacturing? Is there a role for AI there as well?
Absolutely. In fact, the report suggests that this is where AI has the potential to make the biggest impact in the long run. We're talking about using AI to optimize production processes, forecast demand, manage supply chains, even develop entirely new products and materials.
So instead of replacing human workers, it's more about giving them AI-powered tools to make their jobs easier, more efficient, and ultimately more effective.
Exactly. And this is where that whole industrial Gen AI revolution really comes into play. Because Gen AI isn't just about automating tasks. It's about using AI to augment human intelligence, to help us solve complex problems, make better decisions, and ultimately unlock new levels of creativity and innovation.
It's a pretty compelling vision for the future, but I imagine it's not without its challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles manufacturers are facing when it comes to implementing these advanced technologies, and what can they do to overcome them?
Well, we've already touched on a few of the big ones: the skills gap, cybersecurity concerns, the need for better data management. But one challenge that stood out to me in the report was this idea of balancing the adoption of new technologies with the need to maintain or even upgrade legacy systems.
Ah, the classic conundrum of progress. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, except the square peg is a cutting-edge AI system and the round hole is a decades-old manufacturing process.
Rather apt analogy.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge that many manufacturers are facing right now, because while the allure of shiny new tech is undeniable, the reality is that ripping and replacing entire systems is often not feasible, nor is it always the most effective approach.
So what's the solution? How do manufacturers bridge that gap between the old and the new?
Well, according to the report, it all comes down to having a clear digital transformation strategy, one that's tailored to their specific business needs and takes into account both their current capabilities and their long-term goals.
Easier said than done, right? But the report does offer some guidance on how to actually develop and implement such a strategy. For example, it stresses the importance of
Identifying your greatest needs.
right. Don't just jump on the latest tech bandwagon because it's trendy. Figure out what your biggest pain points are and then look for technologies that can actually address those specific needs.
Exactly. And once you've identified those needs, the next step is to,
Prioritize use cases.
yes, don't try to do everything at once. Focus on implementing solutions that will deliver the biggest impact and the quickest return on investment.
It's about taking a phased approach, proving the value of these new technologies on a smaller scale before rolling them out across the entire organization.
Precisely. And as you start to implement these solutions, it's crucial to,
Define your OTIT architecture.
yes, because in today's interconnected world, it's not enough to just have isolated pockets of technology. You need to ensure that all your systems, both old and new, can communicate and share data seamlessly.
It's about creating a unified digital ecosystem that connects your entire operation, from the factory floor to the front office.
Exactly. And underpinning all of this, of course, is the need to,
Equip and champion your people.
yes, because technology is only as good as the people using it. Investing in training, upskilling, and creating a culture of continuous learning is essential for any successful digital transformation.
It's about empowering your workforce with the skills and knowledge they need to not only operate these new technologies, but also to thrive in this rapidly evolving digital landscape.
And that, my friend, is the real key to unlocking the full potential of smart manufacturing and, indeed, the future of work itself.
Beautifully said. But before we get too carried away with grand pronouncements about the future, we should probably pause for a moment and acknowledge that none of this is easy. Transforming an entire industry, let alone the way we work as a society, is a monumental task.
Absolutely. And this report doesn't shy away from the challenges. But what I found so encouraging was its underlying message of optimism. Because despite all the obstacles, there's a real sense that manufacturers are rising to the occasion, embracing new technologies, and reimagining what's possible.
It's that classic entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? The ability to see opportunity amidst uncertainty and to adapt and innovate in the face of change.
Precisely. And that's what makes this whole field so exciting to follow. Because we're not just witnessing the transformation of an industry, we're witnessing the evolution of human ingenuity and our capacity to shape the future of work.
It's a future that's still being written, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be anything but boring. But we've covered a lot of ground already in this first part of our deep dive, and there's so much more to unpack.
We only just scratched the surface.
Exactly. So for those of you joining us on this journey into the heart of manufacturing, don't touch that dial. We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll be exploring even more about the specific strategies shaping the future of how things are made. Welcome back, listeners. Ready to go even deeper into the manufacturing revolution?
You bet.
Last time, we explored some pretty big ideas: AI, sustainability, the future of work itself. But now I'm curious, let's get down to brass tacks. What concrete steps can manufacturers take to actually navigate all this change and come out ahead?
It's one thing to talk about digital transformation, but it's another to actually do it right.
Exactly.
Thankfully, this report doesn't just leave us with buzzwords. It lays out a practical 8-step process that any manufacturer can adapt to their own situation.
Okay, so no more vague pronouncements about embracing the future. Give us the actionable insights. What's step 1 on this roadmap to manufacturing success?
Well, it might seem obvious, but the report stresses the importance of proving the value of a technology before going all in.
Makes sense.
Don't just chase the latest shiny object, right? Make sure it actually solves a problem or adds value to your business.
It's like that old saying, measure twice, cut once. Don't invest in a fleet of robots if your real bottleneck is something else entirely.
Exactly. Figure out what's really holding you back, then explore technologies that address those specific pain points. And speaking of figuring things out, the report emphasizes that digital transformation is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
So be prepared to adapt as you go. No plan is perfect, especially when you're dealing with tech that's constantly evolving.
Precisely. Be willing to learn, iterate, and refine your strategy based on real-world results. And, Remember, none of this works without your people.
Right. Back to those essential human skills we discussed earlier, it's not just about finding people who can code. It's about creating a culture of continuous learning within your organization.
Absolutely. Invest in training, upskilling, reskilling. Give your employees the tools and opportunities to grow alongside the technology. Make it clear that they're not being replaced, they're being empowered.
It's about making sure your workforce is in the driver's seat of this digital transformation, not just passengers along for the ride. But let's not forget the importance of structure and security as we embrace all this new technology.
You're talking about governance, right? That often overlooked but absolutely essential aspect of any successful digital transformation.
Exactly. It's not enough to just have the coolest tech. You need to use it responsibly and securely.
Couldn't agree more. As manufacturers rely more and more on connected systems and data-driven insights, they also become more vulnerable. That's where robust guidelines and protocols come in, managing risk, protecting sensitive information, ensuring ethical use of these powerful technologies.
It's like building a skyscraper.
Yep.
You need a strong foundation to support all that innovation.
I like that.
And part of that foundation is planning for scalability from the very beginning.
Excellent point. Don't just think about solving the immediate problem. Think about how the solution can grow and evolve alongside your business.
It's like planting a tree. You need to choose a spot where it has room to spread its roots and reach its full potential. And speaking of interconnectedness, the report also stresses the importance of breaking down silos within an organization.
Yes. Fostering collaboration between departments, between IT and operations, even between your organization and its suppliers. That's key.
It's like the difference between a symphony and a bunch of people playing random notes. You need everyone working together in harmony to create something truly extraordinary.
A beautiful analogy. And finally, the report emphasizes something that might seem deceptively simple, but is often overlooked: communication.
Ah, yes, communication. The key to any successful relationship, whether it's between two people or an entire organization undergoing a massive digital transformation.
Indeed. Communicate clearly and often with your employees. Explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it will impact them. Celebrate successes, address concerns, and most importantly, listen to feedback from everyone, not just those at the top. It's about creating a shared understanding of the challenges and opportunities ahead.
Well said. And I think that sets us up perfectly to tackle another key aspect of this transformation in our next segment, the game-changing role of data in the future of manufacturing.
The data. We can't forget about the data.
Exactly. It's like the lifeblood of the smart factory. But we'll save that juicy topic for next time. For now, let's take a quick breather and reflect on these 8 steps to digital transformation success. They may seem daunting, but the message is clear. With careful planning, a willingness to adapt, and a focus on both people and technology, manufacturers can not only survive, but thrive in this exciting new era. Welcome back, data miners. Time for the final chapter in our manufacturing deep dive. Are you ready to crunch some numbers?
Always.
We've talked about the skills revolution, that cybersecurity tightrope we're all walking, and the challenge of integrating cutting-edge tech with those trusty old machines that are the backbone of so many factories. But now, let's shine the spotlight on the element that underpins it all: data.
The data.
Mhm.
It really is the fuel, the raw material. You could even say the lifeblood of the smart factory. But like you said earlier, it's not enough to just have it. You have to know how to use it.
Right, exactly.
And that's where things get really interesting, because the report highlights this fascinating paradox. Manufacturers, they get it, right? They understand that data is valuable. They see how the big players are using it to optimize everything.
But then they look at their own mountains of data and just feel overwhelmed.
Exactly. They have the raw ingredients, but aren't quite sure how to turn them into a Michelin star meal.
Or even like a decent pizza.
Right. And in fact, the report found that, on average, manufacturers estimate they're only using about 44% of the data they collect effectively.
Wow, that's like having a superpower you only use half the time. What's holding them back?
Well, it's a mix of factors. The report cites a lack of skilled personnel, for one, outdated tech infrastructure. And then there's the ever-present challenge of integrating data from a million different sources. It's a lot to wrangle.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about having the right people, the right tools, and the right strategy to actually connect the dots. It's like having a high-power telescope, but not knowing how to aim it at the right stars.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And it really underscores why that digital transformation roadmap we discussed earlier is so crucial. Effective data utilization doesn't just happen. It takes a deliberate, holistic approach.
So treat your data like a strategic asset, not just something that piles up in the corner collecting dust.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset, honestly, it's essential for manufacturers who want to unlock the true power of data in this new era.
So for those ready to dive into the data pool, what are some concrete steps they can take? Where do they even begin?
Well, first and foremost, they need to invest in the right technology infrastructure. Think sensors on the factory floor,
Hmm.
cloud-based platforms that can handle massive data sets, and everything in between.
It's about building that data pipeline, right? Seamlessly moving information from where it's collected to where it can be analyzed and acted upon.
Precisely. But just as important as the technology is having the right people to manage it.
There's that skills gap rearing its head again.
It's unavoidable. Manufacturers need to invest in training and upskilling, not just teaching their workforce how to operate new software, but how to truly understand and interpret data.
It's the difference between reading a map and actually navigating a new city. You need those analytical skills to find your way.
Exactly. You need people who can ask the right questions, identify patterns, and turn raw data into actionable insights. Think of them as data detectives, uncovering hidden clues that can optimize the entire operation.
Data detectives. I love it. And speaking of uncovering things, the report also stresses the importance of data security.
Rightfully so. I mean,
Ah.
you're handling incredibly valuable information, sometimes even sensitive information, so you need to protect it with the same vigilance as any other critical asset.
So treat a data breach like a real breach. Lock those servers down tight.
Absolutely. Firewalls, intrusion detection systems,
Yeah.
data encryption, those are the digital locks on the doors, right?
Right.
But it also comes down to educating your employees, building a culture of cybersecurity awareness from the ground up.
Because sometimes, let's be honest, the weakest link is someone clicking on a phishing email because they think they want a free cruise.
Sadly, that's often the case. But look, it all comes back to investing in your people, your technology, and a comprehensive data strategy. That's how you transform data from a potential liability into a powerful asset.
From a jumbled mess of ones and zeros into the building blocks of a smarter, more efficient, and ultimately more successful manufacturing operation.
Couldn't set it better myself. This report makes it crystal clear data isn't just a byproduct of doing business. It's the key to unlocking new levels of innovation and competitiveness in the age of smart manufacturing.
And maybe, just maybe, it holds the key to a more sustainable and equitable future as well.
Now, wouldn't that be something? A future where technology and data work hand in hand with human ingenuity to create a world that works better for everyone.
That's a future worth striving for. And on that optimistic note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the exciting, challenging, and constantly evolving world of manufacturing. What a journey.
It really has been. We've covered a lot of ground: the promise of AI, the importance of human skills, the power of data, and the need for a strategic approach to digital transformation. But this isn't the end of the story, is it?
Not even close. This is just the beginning, an incredible journey for manufacturers around the world. And for those willing to embrace the challenges and opportunities ahead, the future looks incredibly bright.
It certainly does.
Well, to our listeners, we say this: stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Because the future of manufacturing is being written right now, and it's a story you definitely don't want to miss.
Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we'll sign off for now. Until next time, happy innovating.